Okay, today we're going to take a look at lesson 11, in section 2.4 of your textbook. Now, we're going to spend a little bit of time in section 2.4. You have a few different homeworks from that section, but I have broken them up to hopefully make it a little bit easier on you. Sorry, I need to focus the camera. There we go. That's better. So today we're going to focus on writing equations of lines. Now, I've already got a few notes written down on the page, so it would be really great if you could pause the video and write this stuff down either now or after I finish talking about it. But when we're writing equations of lines, we only need two things. This is extremely important for you to know. You only need the slope, and then you need any point on the line. It doesn't matter if it's an intercept, if it's a point out in the graph somewhere, it doesn't matter. You need the slope and a point on that line. Okay, now there are three different forms that we've talked about. We looked at them a little bit maybe in lesson 10. Maybe we didn't. I can't remember. Everything seems to be mushed together in my brain right now. But I know that you looked at these in Algebra 1. So these terms and these forms should not be brand new information. And so hopefully they look familiar. First, we have the standard form. The standard form is ax plus by equals c. Now, I underlined a, b, and c because that's where numbers would go. So like, for example, you might have 3x plus 6y equals 18. All right, that's an example of standard form. The standard form is really helpful for finding x and y intercepts when the numbers are nice and pretty. It really helps us graph and find x and y intercepts, and we'll look at that in a later homework. Okay. The next form we have is slope-intercept form. This is the one that you guys are most familiar with. You remember it. I remember in Algebra 1 when I said, what's the slope formula? A ton of people yelled this out. It's because it's drilled into your mind, and we remember it. Y equals mx plus b. And m is where you would put the slope, and b is where you would put the y-intercept. So an example of that would be y equals 2x plus 4. That is slope-intercept form. Now, slope-intercept form is great for graphing because we can graph the y-intercept, use the slope to make another point, we're good to go. It's also really helpful for writing an equation when you're given m and b. If it says m equals this, your y-intercept, or b equals this, it's super easy to put that in an equation. And it's also helpful when the numbers are really pretty and really even and whole, and you don't have to worry about fractions or decimals. The points or the slope-intercept form can be good. Now, the next form is point-slope form. Now, I know that we went over this in Algebra 1, and we practiced it. We practiced writing the forms, and some of you hated it. I remember that. And back in Algebra 1, we put a lot of focus on slope-intercept form. Now, with point-slope form, we're going to focus on this more in Algebra 2, just because I think you're going to find it a little bit easier, okay? It might not seem easier at first, but we're going to practice with it, and I think you're going to find that it's easier. Okay, so this is the true point-slope form. Y minus y1 equals m times the quantity x minus x1. And in your Math Excel homework, that is the form that it wants. When it says point-slope form, I think you have multiple choice questions and fill in the box questions. So I don't even know that you have to type the whole thing out. I can't remember, but this is the form that it wants. Now, another way to write this form is like this. You take that y1 and you put it on the other side. This is often easier to remember. It looks similar to our slope-intercept form that we're so used to, because you have y equals the slope, your x minus your x value is in parentheses, and then we have that y1 on the end. So that's very similar to the slope-intercept form. So that's probably easiest to remember. This is our most useful form. It's the easiest to make an equation out of. And you can always take it from point-slope form to slope-intercept form very, very easily. And so I think you're going to find that as we practice this form, you like it better than slope-intercept form, and that's what I'm hoping. Now, you're going to have two different types of problems in your homework. The first one is write equations in point slope form. All right. Now, I did a little example of how you would do that up here with the form. So you're just plugging in the numbers that you're given. So you're given a slope and you're given a point. You plug your slope in where m goes. The x value goes in the parentheses with x minus, and the y value goes in front with y minus. Okay, and notice that minus is in the form. That means y opposite of your y value. So y, the opposite of positive 6 is negative 6. And then 8, so look at your x's. X, the opposite of x1. So x, the opposite of negative 8 is, or the opposite of positive 8 is negative 8. Okay? So keep that in mind as we work through some examples. Also, if you haven't paused the video to write down all three forms and all that information I gave you, now would be a great time to do that. You can rewind a little bit. Make sure you get those forms written down before you move on. Okay, the first type of problem we're going to look at gives you the slope, and it says that the line passes through the given point. So for each problem, we're given m, we're given our x, and we're given our y. So something that could be helpful to you is labeling your ordered pair. So your x is always your x1 and your y is your y1. You can label that down here, x1, y1. Okay, now we're just going to plug in numbers where they go. So let's look at our form. We have y, so that's what I'm going to start with, y. Opposite of my y value. What's the opposite of 7? Negative 7 equals m. What's my m? 1/2. Parentheses, x. Opposite of my x value. What's the opposite of positive 3? Negative 3. And that's our answer. Okay, let's try number 2. So we start with y. Opposite our y value. What's the opposite of negative 10? Positive 10. What's my m? Negative 6. Parentheses, x. What's the opposite of my x value? Opposite of positive 3 is negative 3. There we go. So pause the video and give numbers 3 and 4 a try and see what you can do. All right, let's check it. So number 3, y. What's the opposite of our y value? Positive 6. M is negative 1/4. And then x, opposite of our x value is negative 1. Oh, there we go. All right, and number 4, we have y. Opposite of our y value is negative 4. Our slope is 0. And then x, opposite of our x value is negative 1. Now, what do we know about 0 times all this? It's 0. So that changes to y minus 4 equals 0. And then you might see it like this. You could also see this rewritten as y equals 4. Either of those is correct. I don't know that you have one like that in Math Excel, but just know if you have a 0, you can simplify a little. Now, our next set of problems are a little bit different. It asks you to give the equation in point slope form of a line that passes through these 2 points. So remember, we said we need 2 things to make an equation of a line. We need the slope and a point. Well, here we have 2 points, so we've got the point taken care of, but we need the slope. So you're going to have to go back and use your slope formula. y1 minus y, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Now, it really doesn't matter which point you use as point 1 or point 2, as long as you're going in the same direction. Okay. Now, I always like to go from the second one to the first one, but if you go from the first to the second, you'll still get the same answers. So we have 20 minus 2 over negative 3 minus 6. Sorry, I don't know what I was trying to write, but I meant to write a 6. Okay, so 20 minus 2 is 18. Negative 3 minus 6 is negative 9. If you simplify that, you get negative 2. So now we can make it an equation. You have to choose a point. Choose 1 or 2, either one. I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to have y, the opposite of my y value, equals my slope, parentheses, x, the opposite of my x value. So that answer works. Or you can use the other one. So y, the opposite of your y value, equals your slope, x, the opposite of your x value. What's the opposite of negative 3? Positive 3. So either one of those answers will work. Okay, here are 3 more examples. I want you to pause the video and give them a try. Find the slope, and then use the slope and one of the points to make an equation of the line. Okay, let's check your answers. So number 6, we have negative 5 minus 4 over 0 minus a negative 3. Negative 5 minus 4 is negative 9. 0 minus negative 3 is plus. So that gives us a positive 3, and our slope simplifies to negative 3. So there's our m. Choose a point. You can use either one. I'll show you both. So you can have y minus 4 equals negative 3 times the quantity x plus 3. Or you can have y plus 5 equals negative 3, so quantity x minus 0. And we know x minus 0 is just x. So that's the same as y plus 5 equals negative 3x. So either one of those will work. All right, number 7, let's find your slope. So we have 7 minus a negative 2, 3 minus 4. Now 7 minus a negative 2 is 9. 3 minus 4 is negative 1, so that tells us our slope is negative 9. And again, choose one of those points. Use that in your equation. So if I use the first one, we'll have y minus, or I was using the wrong one. I apologize. Y, what's the opposite of negative 2? Positive 2. Our slope is negative 9, and we have x. What's the opposite of 4? Negative 4. Okay. Or use the second point. Y minus 7 equals negative 9, parentheses, x minus 3. Now, remember, you don't have to have both equations. Just pick one. They both work for the same line. In Math Excel, you can choose either, or if it's multiple choice, it already has them filled in. And so you can just pick the correct one where the numbers are where they're supposed to be. All right, and number 8, let's do one more like this. Negative 7 minus a negative 2 over 3 minus 0. So negative 7 plus 2 is negative 5 over 3, and that doesn't simplify. Okay, choose one of your points. We can use the first one, y plus 2 equals negative 5/3. X minus 0 is just x. And so I should have left that out. Let me fix it real quick. Or y plus 7 equals negative 5/3 times the quantity x minus 3. Okay, so either of those will work. Okay, the next type of problems are a little bit different. We're going to kind of follow the same process. We're just going to end with a different form. So now we're going to write equations in slope-intercept form, but we're not going to use y equals mx plus b to start with. We're going to use our point-slope form because that's what we're practicing. We're practicing the point-slope form. So I wrote the form down again. Remember, I told you that this way looks more like slope-intercept form, but it's still point-slope. The only thing I did is I took that y1 from over here and stuck it on the end. And since I moved it, it's no longer negative, it's positive. So in this, you're going to plug in your slope for m. You're going to plug in the opposite of your x value because you can't trust an x. Okay? You can't trust an x. So it looks, in the parentheses, it looks different than it truly is. And then you just add your y value. You don't have to change it. It's just your y. Okay? Then I'll show you what to do from there. So number 1, let's just write it out. So we have y equals, what's my m? 1/2, parentheses x. What's the opposite of my x value? -6. And then what's my y1? Just -1. Okay? Now, we have to simplify it to get it in slope-intercept form. So simplify. Okay? So how can I simplify this? Use the distributive property. So y equals 1/2 x. Half of -6 is -3, and then -1. Okay, so I use the distributive property. Now I'm going to combine like terms. So y equals 1/2 x. What's -3 minus 1? -4. So distribute and then combine like terms. Okay, so make a little note. You're going to plug everything in and then simplify it. So distribute your slope, combine your like terms, and there you go. Okay, here's number 2. Pause the video and give it your best shot. See what you can do. All right, let's check it. So I'm going to do y equals m, so that's -2, parentheses x, opposite of your x, because you can't trust an x. What's the opposite of -1? +1. And then what's my y1? 4. So +4. Now simplify. So let's distribute. And I get y equals -2x minus 2 plus 4. Combine your like terms. Y equals -2x plus 2. Okay? Now, I know that's a little bit different than what you're used to, and that's okay. Back in Algebra 1, when we did this, you had to plug in m, x, y, solve for b, and then plug everything back in. It was more work. So this is a little bit different, but it's easier. It's less work, easier work. Okay? So let's do one more example. Number 3, your slope is 1/4, and your ordered pair is -8, 5. Take just a second, see what you can do. Follow the examples. Okay, so I'm going to do y equals, what's my slope? 1/4. In parentheses, x, you can't trust the x, so the opposite of -8 is +8. And then we just bring down our y. Now let's simplify that. So y equals, what's 1/4 of x? 1/4 x. What's 1/4 of 8? 2. Bring down your 5. Combine like terms. So you get y equals 1/4 x plus 7. There you go. As always, if you need help, have questions, let me know. Send me an email. Hit the Ask My Instructor button. I would be happy to help you. Have a great day.